where we choose to live can have a huge bearing on our life. So I often overshare, and I'm aware of that. Some parts of my life I do like to keep private. I think it's really important for security reasons, but also for our own. I think it's just important to have some level of privacy in our life, something for just us. But if I feel something needs to be spoke about, and because it's gonna help people, then I will talk about it. So I won't hide behind anything. If I think it's gonna help someone, then I'll weigh up the positives and negatives. So this is a map of England. So I'm going to show roughly where I live. I'm obviously not going to pinpoint exactly where I live. That'd be just stupid. Um, but what I want to say is some places get stigmatized, and it doesn't necessarily mean that stigmatism is accurate or true. Now, again, it could be certain locations within a city, within a place. Maybe there are bad areas. But again, like I said in another video, where you associate yourself is going to have a huge bearing on the life you have. So if you place yourself in compromising situations, you're going to have a different experience to people that maybe keep to themselves. So it's worth considering that. So let's get to basic form here. Obviously, the UK is quite big. In some places, you might argue it's small in the overall scheme of the world. But I think often people assume it's small. And I don't think it is. I mean, it's a good size. It's a good size. And we have our independence, of course. We're isolated. So, for the most part, my familiarity is really around the east, the southeast, east of England, really. That's where I'm comfortable. That's where I'm familiar. I have had up north around the Manchester area, I've spent time frequenting, which then obviously, of course, meandering down all these roads. I'm familiar with the journey. It's quite a trek from all the way down here up to there, because we're so populated as well. So maybe some other places it's not so populous. But yeah, I think there's a stigmatism really thinking England's small. I don't think it is at all. So we have good infrastructure though. So I was born. I've spent majority of my life, all the way up to about 36, I think, in Southend-on-Sea in Essex. So the UK, of course, is separated into different counties, which I think in America you'd probably just call it states. I guess the equivalent. I guess they're not really showing the boundaries here on this image to show where they are. So Essex is really just goes up to about Colchester. I'm not about. I think Saffron Walden might be included. I'm not really sure. But anyway, it goes all the way around here to there. Up around the edge of London. Don't know how much you can actually see there. Hopefully you can see enough. And then you start going towards, I think it's Suffolk, and then we get Norfolk, then we get Cambridgeshire, then you start going into the Midlands and all sorts of things. And of course, most people are familiar with London. But we call it the home counties. All the home counties are the ones close to London. The counties, so Essex is a home county. It's close to London. Borders upon. So really it's about 20 minutes. From where I used to live, it takes about 20 minutes. And sometimes I frequent back there. And it's a huge trek from where I relocated. So I had a flat in Southend. I wanted a house. And back in 2020. So I have, we can go deviating too far one way or another. I've got to try and be careful because I don't want to sort of like go too far with it. So I've got a social housing council home. And that does allow you to trade, like swap. It can't be for financial reasons. It can only ever be a direct swap. No one gains out of it apart from just a mutual exchange. Otherwise, you're in violation of the tenancy agreement. So it's literally just an exchange if someone's interested in swapping homes. So if someone lives in a location you want and you vice versa, you can do an exchange between each other, providing you've got sort of like, trying to think the word now, permission from your housing, because everyone has to sign off on it in the end. Now, there's reasons as to why people have council homes. There'll be reasons why people are struggling to get council homes. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of that. We could go on a whole tangent with this, and there's a lot of stigmatism again in that area. And again, there's people that are ignorant to things, and I'm not educating every moment of every day. Sometimes people are just going to have to realise not everybody has a life of luxury, of privilege. And certain things, again, I'm trying not to deviate too far here, but some people sacrifice throughout their life and they don't get financially rewarded for it. And I think there's a stigmatism that you're lazy, but actually I think it's incredibly selfless to do things without anything in return. Whereas people that go and earn money and maybe make large sums of money, a lot of them are actually selfish. They don't distribute that wealth. They don't support people. They just feel so self-entitled that they then start to mock and judge other people. Again, I don't want to go too far with that. But yeah, there's reasons as to why people find themselves in circumstances. But anyway, I managed to get away from Southend-on-Sea. Now, it was home to me, and it's right. You've got the beach, you've got the pier. It's great. You've even got a massive amusement park along the seafront. Like I say, it's all familiar to me. I know every nook and cranny. But, you know, I went through a situation, separation from my daughter and things, and it was just I wanted a new beginning, and I like the countryside. And sometimes getting to the countryside in Essex isn't the easiest thing. You have to go through an awful lot of traffic just to get anywhere. So I relocated from Southend-on-Sea to Peterborough. Like I said, I don't talk too much about where I live because I think it's just really important we have a level of privacy. But I think from the point of view of removing stigmatism, but also showing why I make decisions and sort of why I'm content with where I am to a point. Because there's a reason to everything, like for me personally. So I always knew, like for instance, before I started writing my books and things like that, I've been in warehousing. And there's not a lot in the South End area. You have to sort of travel out. By the time you've paid fuel, your fuel costs and things, you're really not making a lot of money. And I knew from a logistics point of view, just an awareness, where if you look at Peterborough, right smack bang in the middle of the country pretty much, that's an incredible logistics position, isn't it? Especially even the neighbouring the towns as well. It's a great place to be, isn't it, for logistics? And there is the warehouse roles. There's plenty. And it's, but again, you start going closer in and it becomes like a half an hour drive here, 40 minutes there. But it's a lot. But fuel in the UK is quite expensive. So it's a bit of an issue. It's a bit of an issue. Now, being used to being near the seafront, the seaside, I'm a bit more landlocked. It takes me about an hour and a half to get to Hunstanton over here. It'll take me about 2 hours to get over here to Mundersley. It's beautiful in Mundersley. If we get that up, I'm not sure if it's going to come up properly. It's really, really nice. And again, that's what it comes down to. Like, where can you frequent from where you live? But from where I am logistically, it's actually a great place. You can get up north in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So like from where I am, maybe to Manchester, 2.5, 3 hours, I guess. Maybe 2 hours into London, hour and a half. It takes me 2 hours to go from Peterborough to Southend, for instance. So, of course, I know all the route. But so from that point of view, we can get in around any part of the country, realistically, within 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because it's centralised. So I knew that going in, that, you know, and this is what I'm getting at in the other video, where I'm talking about, like, make decisions that benefit the lifestyle you want. If you refuse to adapt, or refuse to change, you will keep yourself stuck and stagnant. I was incredibly frustrated in Southend. Like, I love being near the beach, but money was ridiculously tight. There was very limited opportunities. And it was just incredibly busy. Like, the roads are crazy. You try and anyone knows, try and get in and out of there. You'll be sitting in heavy traffic just to go a short distance. It takes ages just to get out of the town, let alone start getting around. Where I am in Peterborough, I'm not in the city centre. I'm on the real fringes of Peterborough. I'm like on the edge. So it's easy for me to get in and out. I can get into the city within 15 minutes. I can get straight out and down the country as fast as I can. Easy peasy, like within minutes. And I can get straight into the countryside towards Wisbeach and sort of March over here, and even going up to King's Lynn. I can just go straight into them, and it's easy because the roads throughout are just rapid. So infrastructure has been great. I haven't had problems here. When I first moved, you know, I think there was like drugs problem in the local area and things because there was police and presence. But that seems to have died down, at least where I am. And I haven't had the problems. You know, I don't go into the city centre often, but when I have, there's never been any issue I've noticed. Delivery, I think, is incredibly reliable, even food deliveries and things like that. I have no issue with at all. And again, like I say, and the neighbouring areas are actually incredibly beautiful. You know, you can go straight into the countryside. It's easy. Countryside's this side, of course. We've got more built up cities and towns. This to the west. But you start going anywhere east, it's incredibly beautiful. Southeast, east is great. I haven't even been north. I've still got to go Lincoln. I haven't even been up to Lincoln yet, you know, and I think that's going to be a great place to visit. even all the way up to York, wherever York is, or York's further up than I realised. But Lincoln isn't going to take me long. Maybe an hour and 20 minutes, hour. I reckon about an hour. Probably an hour to Lincoln. Thingy looks really. Where's it gone? We're going to go. Not there. I'm trying to think where the places are at the moment. Stamford. Stamford looks really pretty as well. I think it's quite an expensive place. But you've even got this Rutland Water Park, nature reserve and things. It says, look, there's places to go. Now, even I'm thinking right now, I've been here 4.5 years. I'm considering a home swap. I've put my house up for a home swap. Doesn't mean I'll do a home swap. And I haven't really found a lot of places I'm interested in. There's only 2 that would interest me. One was in St. Neots. That's like a smaller town. It's in between Cambridge and Northampton here. It's close to Bedford and things. It's closer to London, I guess. But it's not that far. But it's maybe about half an hour south from where I am. It won't make too much difference, but logistically, maybe it will in terms of work and things like that. Now, it doesn't mean I would even consider it. It's just I'm showing where my mind's at and the opportunities I can have. I'm not really too interested in going further north, in all honesty, because I'm familiar with the south. Like, this is where I like to be. This is all the areas I like to frequent because it's not busy over here. If you actually look at the infrastructure, look, you've got all these big cities you've got Birmingham area to the West Midlands. Then you've got like Manchester, Liverpool. We've got Sheffield here, Leeds. Then you got up to Newcastle. We've obviously got London. And then you've got the other smaller ones like Southend. We've got Colchester, Ipswich. You've got Norwich over here. You've got King's Lynn there. But overall, from where I am, if you go east, it's all small towns, small villages. It's being in the countryside where I love. So I wouldn't even say the luxury of living in the countryside because I've considered it. There's been there's been opportunities potentially to go into one of these towns and be in the countryside. But from a work point of view, logistically, it would be too expensive to live there and then keep traveling in and out. Whereas I think it makes more sense to be in a place where you've got a better logistic hub. And then when you want, you can frequent in your spare time into the country. I think that sometimes that just makes a bit more sense. So that's kind of where my head's been. If I really want to, I can sacrifice and look towards going and being more in the country. But again, that's going to come down to finances and work opportunities. But yeah, I like it here. I really do. It's like it's so beautiful just driving around. You can just get in the car and literally just go for a drive, and you're just in the countryside. It's beautiful, incredible. And then in the end, you reach out and you end up on the beach. It's beautiful. Now I can understand someone that maybe lives a bit more deeper into maybe Stoke. I've driven through Stoke. It looks quite deprived when I went through before, to be totally honest. But if you start going into some of these places, they're a bit more like factory work sort of places. You know, it's very hard, very tough in terms of So yeah, I think depending on where you live, it's going to depend on maybe your life experience. So I could understand where some people maybe live in certain places that aren't very nice, but you've got to think there is a bigger part of the UK that exists beyond this, just because that's your familiarity. I've pushed myself outside my comfort zone. I left everything I knew and moved further up, 2 hours away, and that's quite a big trek. It is quite a big trek. Very, very different change of life, but I think beneficial. So, like I said, one was in St. Neots, an opportunity. I'm not saying they're interested. It's just something that's come up and I looked. But I'm thinking, upon looking, I started to realise how good my home is. You know, I'm not just going to move for the sake of moving. It has to be like beneficial. I must see the benefit. So the other one I was looking at came up is all the way in Plymouth over here. Literally the tail end of the UK, of England, literally near Cornwall. And that's crazy. It's like literally on the bottom corner. I've never been to that part of England at all. So it's definitely not familiar. But logistically, it worries me. So I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to. First of all, you can get flooding around here. It happens. But it's how far away it is from everything. You'd have to, and that's how I think. You know, I'm someone that would want to travel. I want to go and visit different places. Effectively, you'd have to go so far before you even have like freedom of travel within the rest of the country. Now, it might not be as bad as I think. Maybe you just go straight up the M5 over here. I know some of these roads are supposed to be like road accident central. I think it's probably around here somewhere. But is it somewhere where I would want to be? And it's something I've got to think about, you know. Do I want to consider that? Because look where I am. Now, people could say, oh, Peterborough's terrible. And that's what I hear all the time. People always put it down. And I've never understood that. I think, how is it? And it makes it really hard to move, by the way. So even if there's somewhere else, because it's been stigmatized, people just naturally don't want to go. And it's like, I don't understand that. I like to be near the coast and I like being in the countryside. So if I could pick, I'd probably pick one of these countryside, one of these like Mundlesey. I think if I had the choice, I'd probably look to go there. I've been a couple of times and I think it's beautiful. I think I'd like living around there. I think that'd be really nice. It's a really quiet beach. And it's a small little village place. Or somewhere near the edge around here, I think would be really nice. That's where, if I could pick, that's probably where I'd go. So I'm only 2 hours away or so traveling. And I think going all the way over here, I'm not sure would make sense to me. But having said that, it might be really nice there to the point where that is where you'd want to be. So I'm really not sure. I've got to do my own little research here. But the point is, we're always trying, or at least we should always be seeking to elevate our life. And elevating our life is sometimes going to be step outside our comfort zone, but also challenge ourselves. It's just going to be like, if you see an opportunity, it's like, take that leap of faith because something beautiful may come from that. So I'm not saying right now that I'm staying here in Peterborough my whole life. But what I'm saying, but if I were to, I wouldn't consider that a bad thing at all because I literally can get anywhere around this country quite rapid and very convenient. And I think there's something really, really great about that. So to stigmatize it, I think is really stupid because it's literally, you just only have to look. There's no big cities in the area. It's literally just Peterborough and Cambridge, and then you continue going east and it's Norwich. Everywhere else is these little smaller places. King's Lynn's quite big as well. I don't think it's doing it justice on the map here. But then you've also got like, it used to be the Queen's, but the King's Sandringham retreat as well. So and you've got the Norfolk Broads and things with the rivers going through. Anyway, I think you can pick apart any place and start saying this place is bad, this place is bad. But sometimes you have to look at what is good about it. And I'm very, very, very fortunate, logistically, where I am makes sense. So yeah, I am open to potentially moving, but again, it would have to make sense to me. And I'd be more inclined if I could to go just a little bit more east. But having said that, if you start going off these little beaten paths, your job opportunities dry up too, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd really talk about that a little bit. I know I've given a lot of personal information away, I guess. But sometimes you just got to look at where you are and what you actually want for your life. Because if you do want somewhere, I think serene and quiet. Of course, there's places I would love to. I still want to visit. What do you call it now? I can't remember what you call it. I've got Norfolk Broad stuck in my head now. Oh, I can't remember now. Where Jeremy Clarkson and things are. The Cotswolds. Yeah, I still want to visit the Cotswolds. I've never even been. It's supposed to be incredibly beautiful. I think I did see the New Forest a long time ago featured on TV. I want to visit the New Forest. That's supposed to be beautiful. And that's what I'm saying. They're scattered everywhere. The New Forest is down the south. You've got freaking Cotswolds are to the west. You've even got, like, if you go and look up Wales, Wales looks incredible. There's lovely, lovely places, you know. So if you don't like being in the big cities, it's kind of like do what you can to build a life away from the big cities. Me personally, I'm very fortunate. I'm on the fringes. So even though it is Peterborough, it's literally very, very on the edge. But it's so easy for me to get in and out. And it's like, from that point of view, I'm very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. And that's the way I consider it, you know, where some people pick up, oh my God, it's terrible. Life is what you make of it. It doesn't matter where you go. There'll always be someone saying, why'd you go there? Same way I spoke in the other video about England, where when people say, oh, I'm going to move to the UK, and people go, oh my God, why would you come here? It's terrible. Well, where do you live that's terrible then? Because just don't just assume the whole country's terrible. You know, my experience in Southend is it's very densely populated in a very small space. But you do find pockets of beauty. And it has pretty much anything you need anyway, and it has good connections to other local places. So I don't know. I think it's better than it gets credit for. I'd say logistically, I think Peterborough is far better than it says, and I think there's an awful lot of things to do. Once you start digging deep, there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of places to frequent, and like I said, off the beaten path, you start going different places. But the same could be said anywhere. You know, I just think some places are just too densely populated. You know, like if you go in Liverpool, Manchester, um, Leeds. These are my idea of a nightmare. To be totally honest, I couldn't live in. I couldn't live in those densely populated places. Now there'd be pockets of beauty and mixed into it, but it'd also be a hassle to get in and out. And I don't like all that heavy traffic. So that's not for me. I pick more quiet places. Even York is a city, but look, if you look to the side of it, it's got smaller places. That'd be far more beneficial. And that's kind of what you got to do sometimes. Is you just all you got to do is use a map. Just use a map. I knew work wise, logistically, Peterborough would be great. So, like I say, when people just put other places down, I think it's sometimes from a lack of understanding, and sometimes like what is your lifestyle like as well. But it's always keep ourselves ready for the new opportunities and the next breakthrough. Um, so yeah, I like England. It's home. Home.